Hello, everyone. Harry here to talk about the latest in the University of Idaho murders case. I'm going to want to check in with you on this every few weeks for a few reasons. First, the crime is unspeakably horrific. Four students living off campus are all slaughtered in the night in their home. They just one remaining occupant wakes up and there are four people who've been stabbed to death. Second, it's a very mysterious and difficult crime. To me, it's reminiscent of the Charlie Manson murders. They, for those of you who don't remember, basically Manson just sent out his followers to Sharon Tate's house at night, and they viciously murdered and slaughtered them and wrote things in blood on the wall, but nobody had any clue who it could be, which sort of freaked out everybody double in the whole community. And it took a long time and some good breaks for them to identify Manson, who the very first time they compile a list of everybody it could be, he's on there at number 25 or whatever. Likewise here, and the entire community is upended, completely insecure and anxious. And then third, because at least to date, there's been some pretty excellent law enforcement work. It's a time for trashing officers who, break the law and act excessively and unlawfully. And I thought as a counterpoint, this is just a regular Idaho police force. They've coupled with the FBI, but they've done some impressive work so far. And maybe this case that seemed insoluble, they may solve. All right. The big breakthrough, so it may prove to be, if it's a false trail, then they're really back to nowhere. But the big breakthrough, I talked with you about a month ago or so. They had a sheath of a knife left on the bed that had some DNA on it. However, they weren't able to match it with a normal database, and they had to do some real cutting edge work that is potentially controversial and maybe not even admissible, that expands the universe of possible DNA matches. And that's how they came up with a 28-year-old grad student, or former grad student there, PhD student actually, Brian Koberger, who they then traced back to the he had left Idaho, driven back across country to his parents' home, and was living there in sort of Pennsylvania suburbs. And they arrested him, and they also undertook some searches. We actually don't know what they found because the judge ordered a basic gag on the whole case. And a very strict one. In fact, the family members of one of the victims, as well as media, have challenged it to try to make him release and give them the ability to talk to the press and people. It's considered part of this very traumatic time to be able to somehow discuss it. But what we've learned most recently is they have stuff, but we don't know what. From a search back in Pennsylvania at Koberger's parents, including the garbage. A little legal aside here is that garbage that when you put stuff in the garbage, the police can search the garbage with no warrant. The principle being, per the Supreme Court, that you've abandoned any sort of expectation of privacy. So they've gone through it. We don't know what they got there. We do know that they previously performed a couple searches back in Idaho and got a few things. Some hairs, which, of course, if they check out as belonging to any of the victims, would be really important. And otherwise, things that don't seem to have all that much evidentiary value. Okay, but now Koberger has now come back. There is a gag order in the case. The next thing that's due to happen is not due to happen for another 4 months. And that is what's called a probable cause hearing in Idaho. they were able to arrest him based on an arrest warrant, based on probable causes found by a magistrate. He's going to challenge that and say they didn't have probable cause, and the judge has already set aside the better part of a week, 4 or 5 days, to have this extensive probable cause hearing. If they, let's say the hairs that they found check out, it wouldn't matter technically. Of course, they could maybe rearrest, but he would have to be released if they can't show they had probable cause to arrest him when they did, which is largely based on DNA, but maybe some other stuff, and that's part of the reason that the court has granted the gag order. The prosecution wants to hold its hand close to its vest, so that the defense can't kind of prepare pot shots to take at it or learn about it before. So come the showdown, the next showdown will be June 26th, a whole week. I'm sure it'll be big national news as they tussle over whether there was probable cause to arrest Kohberger. We know a little bit more about Kohberger than we knew before. 28-year-old PhD student. He's apparently a former heroin addict, say his friends, but also he's supposedly quite socially awkward and even a little sort of discomforting. There have been a few eyewitness accounts of his just being on a chair in town and looking at people and that sort of thing. So maybe a weird duck. Of course, sometimes it's happened that police have arrested weird ducks because they're weird ducks and without true probable cause to know they did it. And the probable cause here, again, goes back to this kind of cutting edge DNA treatment, but surely also more, including things we don't know. So I think the next big event will be the probable cause hearing. If anything happens before then, I'll be back, but certainly I'll be back to talk about it then. It's just an unusual, very unsettling case, and one that at least to date might feature some splendid law enforcement work. So there you have it. The next big development probably in June, and when it happens, I'll come back to talk about it. Until then, talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.